Looking for a thoughtful gift for someone in your life? Or maybe a little something for you? Introducing Symbiotica, pure science-backed supplements that actually deliver what your body needs. Try the Vanilla Cream Magnesium L-threonate to calm your nervous system and improve focus throughout the day. Or the Liposomal Glutathione to support anti-aging and gut health. Go to symbiotica.com/Rach to get 20% off plus free shipping. That's symbiotika.com/Rach for 20% off plus free shipping. I'm a sneaker kind of girl. I love comfortable shoes, but I also want them to look cute. The New Balance 1080 is that versatile go-to sneaker that's ready for anything. I wear them to the gym, I wear them out on jogs, I wear them around the town to go get groceries, I do it all. You get the perfect mix of comfort and performance, so you're covered from coffee runs to race day. Runners love that cushion midsole because it's got their back, or well, actually their feet. But basically it's this giant cushiony, beautiful marshmallow shoe. Doesn't make sense until you put it on your feet and then you're like, oh yeah, Rach, this is just like walking in a marshmallow. Ready to upgrade your kicks? Shop the 1080 now at newbalance.com. When you get the answers you need, when you get the resources you need, when you get the steps that you need, it is like exponential results. That's what you gotta aim at. You gotta aim at, if I'm willing to dive in and I'm willing to figure out what's really going on and I'm willing to solve whatever needs to be solved so that I can thrive as a parent, or my children can thrive in their environment, or maybe you're listening to this and like you need to take the steps to help you thrive as a human so that you can go through senior year of college and write your thesis well. Like, don't treat the symptom. Let's look at the root cause. Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to another episode of the podcast and a new edition in our Friday series. If you haven't heard, during the summer, Fridays are all about fun because I like the alliteration of Friday and fun. Not because the episodes are necessarily the funnest thing you've ever done in your life, but I do hope that they feel a little lighter, a little brighter, and are something lovely to end the week with. That being said, today's is a little more motivational. I know I promised you that Fridays during the summer, we're going to be light. We're going to be like on the beach with our iced coffee, just like living our best life. And that is my intention for these episodes. But y'all, it's June. And because it's June, it is my job as your motivational friend to tell you that we are halfway through the year. Every single year on this show, I gotta do a We're Halfway Through the Year podcast episode. And I promise to keep it fun. And I promise that if you just hang out for this conversation, it's gonna lift you up. It's gonna give you some ideas, some great journal prompts. It's gonna help you to create a plan for the next 6 months so that you can make sure that you're staying on course. But I wouldn't be your friend Rach if I didn't talk to you about the fact that we only have 6 months left. I was actually laughing about this as I was prepping this episode because I was like, you know how all friend groups have the different friends, right? You have the friend that you know if you invite that friend, it's going to be a good time, right? You know that friend that like no matter what you do, no matter where you go, they're going to make it a party. They're probably going to encourage you to maybe drink more than you wanted to or like have some extra guacamole or, ride the bull you didn't even know you were going to end up at like a saloon with a mechanical bull, but somehow here you are on a Tuesday. Like, you know that friend? I'm not that friend. I'm the friend that everyone calls when they're like, how do I get the promotion? My life's falling apart. What do I do? Or I cannot tell you how many times the people I love most in this world, my closest friends and family, get so annoyed. They get so annoyed with me. I know, it's shocking. Who could ever get annoyed with this cherub? But it's true because it's one thing to check in on a podcast or read one of my books and have me try and hype you up. But I promise that getting that 24 hours a day is not actually the best. And I might make everybody roll their eyes because I'm always trying to motivate them and like, where do you want to be and what do you want to do? But I'll tell you what, people roll their eyes, but then I am always the one they come back to. They're like, you're right. What do I do? So as much as it might annoy you, I hope it doesn't, but maybe it annoys you a little bit to hear that there are only 6 months left in the year. Those kinds of check-ins are what help me to stay on track. It doesn't mean that I'm like a robot. I do the same thing. No, I'm very seasonal. In the holiday season, I fully embrace it. In the summertime, catch me in cutoffs on the beach with my kids. Like I live my life, but I stay on track. And when I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, before I'd kind of developed these habits and these systems for my life, I would get to the end of the year and I would feel so frustrated because I'm like, how do I start a year so pumped up and so excited and so inspired about where I want to take my life? And then I would get to the end of the year and I was like so far away from my goals. I could not figure out why that was happening. And that was happening because I didn't yet have like those daily practices and those systems and those habits in place to keep me on track. But even if I hadn't had those yet, I know that the practice of checking in, that would have helped me course correct. I didn't learn to check in on my progress until much later in life. So in case you haven't learned that yet, I'm going to talk to you about it today. And in case you have heard about it, but maybe you just need the reminder, that is what we're going to do. I get really excited when I hear, okay, time's passing. What does that mean? Where do we want to go? Because it means that it's not too late. I just don't want you to get to the end of the year and feel frustrated that you didn't make more traction. I want you to get to the end of the year and feel really proud about where you are and where you're headed as you start the new year. But if you don't pay attention to where you are on the path, I don't know anyone who won't get off track. It's June. 6 months have gone by. 6 months of 2025, which feels bananas. But today, I don't want you to dwell on what has happened. We're going to review, because it's always important to review the last quarter, and in this case, the last couple of quarters. But I want to walk you through how you build a game plan for the second half. What's something intentional? What's something simple? What's something soul-filling that you need as you head into this summer and beyond that will help you to feel focused and to stay fired up, to stay aligned with those goals that you've set for yourself? Or maybe this is your opportunity to check in and be like, you know what? Those goals I set back in January, totally misaligned. Let's set some new ones. So wherever this conversation finds you today, I hope that you find it helpful. And I promise I will be back next week. I will do something really fun, like what's in my purse. I promise I will keep it light. But I want to encourage you to hang in, like dive all the way deep into this episode. Let's really, as a community, be intentional about how we're going to finish this year. And that starts right now. Before we jump into building where we're going, we have to review where we've been. I have been talking about this, I know, for about a decade. So forgive me if I repeat myself, but part of hanging out with me is you will hear me repeat a lot of the classics that I've been saying, or, the greatest teachers or the Stoics, like the stuff that works has worked for a very long time for a reason. I don't believe in trends when it comes to working on ourselves and our life. I believe in stuff that is tried and true and has worked for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. So it's why you'll hear me say some things over and over and over. I'll give you new context and new stories. But one of the things that I've said for a very long time is that you must review where you are before you plan where you're going. If you've ever been to a Rise conference with me, you know that the very first day of a Rise conference is always own your past. So Rise conference is own your past, own your present, own your future. And we start with past, not because I want people to dwell on it, but because I want people to the best of their ability, make sense and harness all of the power and all of the lessons in what you've walked through and use that as the foundation for where you're going. So we won't dive all the way into our full past and our childhood, but for today's purposes, let's treat it as if the rest of your year is a business that you are trying to grow. Now, that might kind of sound funny if you're like a stay-at-home parent or you're a college student. You're like, that doesn't make sense. I'm not an entrepreneur. I know. But a lot of the things I've learned in 20 plus years of being an entrepreneur, I think are applicable to anybody who's working on any area of their life. And a performance review, or in business, we would call it a post-mortem, something where you look at what has happened and you say, okay, what worked? What was awesome about this? What didn't work? Where did we make mistakes or fall off track? How can we improve for next time? And then you use all of that information to build a plan on how you're going to finish the next quarter or the next couple of quarters in a stronger way. So even though you're not building a business, I think this is really helpful for anybody. But if you are building a business, feel free to use these ideas to figure out how you're going to hit that revenue goal that you set 6 months ago. In order to review the last 6 months, I'm going to give you a couple of options. The first is I'm going to give you a bunch of questions today that you can journal about. I love a journaling session. I love that every single person listening to this can write down on a piece of paper, any notebook, any journal, anything you've got. You can grab a pen or a pencil. You can write down these answers and spend some time reflecting on the last 6 months. The other option, for those of you who got a priority planner once upon a time, or maybe you got that as the bonus for pre-ordering the last book, I know thousands of you got that as a bonus, go hit up the first several pages of your priority planner. In fact, even if you've already filled yours out, let's say you have an old one, you keep it as a keepsake, those first several pages where it asks you to review the last quarter, the questions and prompts in there are fantastic. And you can just use those questions and fill them out in whatever journal you have. But if you don't have a priority planner, no worries. The questions I'm going to ask you right now will absolutely work. I just wanted to remind those of you who have those, maybe they're collecting dust on your desk or you forgot that it was there. This is a great moment to brush it off and see what it has to hold. You've got your journal. Here's your first question. What is one thing that you have done in the last 6 months that has made you feel proud? One thing. Anything. Spend some time journaling. What is one thing you've done in the last 6 months that made you feel proud? Number 2, what is something hard that you pushed through that deserves celebration? Now, by the way, these could be the same things. I'm including them both because oftentimes the thing that we're most proud of, we didn't celebrate properly. Think about it for a minute. If you're like anybody I know, you work hard to achieve something and then you just sort of move on to the next thing. Or you go, okay, like I did that and now what's the next thing that I'm going to try and accomplish? Have you celebrated your wins? I am so convinced that people get to a place of burnout for many reasons, but one of them is because we do not slow down, acknowledge the accomplishment, and celebrate it properly. I think you guys know this, but in case you don't, my happy place is on the beach. Actually, that's not enough. My happy place is on the beach with an iced coffee in my hand. What a vibe. There are a lot of beaches out there, but there's only one people call the beach. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, is made up of 14 coastal communities and 60 miles of sunny beaches. Together, they create a place that makes you feel like you belong. Shine and dine in a foodie haven with oceanfront patios, fresh seafood, low country classics, and southern favorites. Plus, my favorite, you can listen to live music any day of the year, outside at laid-back beach bars, at world-renowned theaters, or right on the boardwalk. You belong at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Plan your trip to the beach at visitmyrtlebeach.com. My favorite part about Thrive Market is that I don't have to think about it. As a mom of 4 kids trying to get dinner on the table, make sure there are enough snacks in the pantry and items to fill their lunch boxes, it is so nice to not have to think about whether or not the ingredients in what I'm shopping for are actually good for my family. This is the beauty of Thrive Market. It's your favorite health food store, but online and way more affordable. Not only can I get my favorite products, but I also always find brand new ones that I didn't know existed. Things like Ora Bora sparkling water or Unreal dark chocolate bars with coconut. Oh my gosh, have you guys had those? Thrive has supplements, household items, and clean beauty too. All of their items are vetted and all way more affordable than you think. Skip the junk without overspending. Head to thrivemarket.com/Rach to get 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift. That's thrivemarket.com/Rach, thrivemarket.com/RACH. Here's a simple idea that I love for celebrating big wins. I, years ago, had this dream of being a New York Times bestseller. I'm sure y'all have heard me tell this story, but there's some newbies here, so let's give them a minute. I had always dreamed of 1, being an author, 2, having books, and 3, like, oh my gosh, if I could be a New York Times bestseller. And it just so happened that I got married. This was a very long time ago. I got married, and someone had given us a bottle of Dom Perignon champagne for our wedding. And we didn't drink champagne because we didn't understand how delicious it was, but we didn't really drink champagne. But we had this bottle, and I knew it was nice because I had heard that term, like Dom Perignon. I'd heard it in like hip hop songs, and I'd seen it in videos. So I knew, oh, that's fancy champagne. So I was trying to think of a way to use this bottle of fancy champagne. I didn't want to give it away, and I didn't want to just like stick it somewhere and like hope I would use it. I thought, how can I make this extra special? And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to attach a goal to that champagne bottle. And I got a piece of washi tape and I put it on the champagne bottle and I wrote New York Times bestseller on the washi tape. And I stuck that champagne in a cabinet. And for years, whenever I'd open that cabinet, I'd see that bottle of champagne. And then eventually I got to the place in my career where I had my own office and I put that bottle of champagne in the fridge at the office because I wanted the whole team to see it. And for about a decade, that bottle of champagne with the washi tape New York Times bestseller, it followed me around. I moved it from house to house. It went into offices. It was in the fridge. And every time I saw it, I'd be like, right, that's where I'm headed. That's where I'm headed. New York Times bestseller, New York Times bestseller. And plenty of you have heard me tell the story of the day I finally made the New York Times list for the first time. And the freaking joy Like I could still tap into it right now of getting to open that bottle of champagne. And I still at that point didn't like champagne. Now I love champagne. But at that point, I still didn't like it. But I just was so excited because I had had this sort of talisman for years, for a decade, reminding me where I was going. I'm not telling you to celebrate with champagne, but is there some way in your life that you can make a bigger deal around the goals that you are setting for yourself so you remember to acknowledge them? I've got 4 champagne bottles right now with washi tape on them in my refrigerator. 4. Yeah, I have 4. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm not, because I actually think I would rather wait until I've achieved the thing and like show you guys on Instagram or something when I pop another bottle. But I will tell you that all 4 of those are big. They're hard. They're like, okay, this is a goal that we are trying to achieve. And what I love about them is that they're so big, but they are so aligned with who I am and where I want to go. I never look at those bottles in the fridge and go, oh yeah, that's not really my dream anymore. I still am like, yes, that is where we're headed. And it might take me another decade, but by God, I got my celebration for this thing ready to go. So this is your gentle reminder that you need to be celebrating your wins. And can you add a little more ceremony? Can you add a little more vibe around how you choose to do that? As a side note, this is also a really great gift to give people. For someone you're really close to, that you really believe in, to give them a champagne with the washi tape and with the goal that you know they have in their heart, and like spread this gift around. Doesn't have to be champagne. I know not everybody drinks, but just to have something that you're like, when you achieve this goal, we are going to do this thing, whatever it is. Okay, next journal prompt. What is a moment that you surprised yourself in a positive way? In the last 6 months, have you surprised yourself in a positive way? I include this one here because I think it's really important to remind ourselves that we are continuously evolving. You are not meant to be the same person that you were 5 years ago. When we start to change and grow, it often can rub some people the wrong way. The people who love us most, but maybe they haven't decided to change and grow yet, sometimes they can be uncomfortable when they see us begin to evolve. But I want you to remember that the evolution is the entire point. You're supposed to change. So asking yourself if you've surprised yourself in any way, when you look back, you're like, wow, I can't believe I actually did that, or I can't believe I stuck with that thing. It's important to acknowledge that because it's the simplest way I know of to see how I am changing. The next question I have for you is, what is something you feel really grateful for in the last 6 months? And for this one, I'd love to encourage you to pick something that's divine. Truly. You don't have to believe in what I believe, but I believe in a God that is guiding and protecting us. I believe in energy and source and the universe taking care of us as we go. And I think that each and every one of us can look back in the last 6 months and see something that happened that no amount of work, that no amount of strife, that no amount of planning could have made happen. Everybody has something where you're like, you know what? You can call it luck if you need to. If you don't want to call it God, you can call it luck. But can you look for something in the last 6 months that happened that you're like, you know what? That wasn't me. That was right place, right time, serendipity, meant to be, something guiding me. Can you find an example of that? So for all of those journal prompts, you might have noticed they're all pretty positive. In order to review our last 6 months, we got to look at both positive and the areas we wish we could improve. But I thought it would be cool, because we're going sports themed on this episode with our halftime, to have a highlight reel. Like, create a highlight reel of your accomplishments. I mean, not a real one, or maybe, I don't know, that could be fun. but in your journal, just acknowledging the stuff that you did that was awesome. Can you celebrate your resilience? Can you acknowledge the joy and the growth? A highlight reel matters because it's something that you can reach for when you're having a hard day or when you're like, this doesn't work, or you really need to be reminded to trust the process. Go look at that highlight reel again. Go remember those moments. Go tap back into the energy of the stuff that you did right. We have a highlight reel. We've got the stuff we've done that's awesome. The next piece here, I want to call it the halftime reset. This is the clear out. This is, we did some stuff right. We also did some stuff we wish we hadn't. And we do need to acknowledge those things in the instance that they've gotten us off track in some way. So before we talk about where we're going, the last piece that we're going to discuss in where we've been is to clear out the junk, the things that are weighing you down, the things that are making it harder for you to achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. Here are some journal prompts for that piece. Number 1, in the last 6 months, what is a person, place, or thing that is draining you? That is draining you, that is dragging you down, that feels like it requires way more energy than it is giving back. Now, the joke that pops into my head immediately is like, do kids count? And kids do require way more energy than they typically give back to us. I would say kids don't count, but how you feel about raising your kids does. Like, let's just dive into it for a minute. We all know that having babies, having children, having teenagers, having whatever age child, that potentially they are requiring way more energy and resources and life force from you than they are giving back in hugs or laughter or puzzle time or whatever. But if I say what's draining you, like what's the thing in your life that's draining you most, and you're like, oh my God, parenting, that to me is, there's a little like alarm that needs to go off. There's a little bell. There's a little, not a red flag, but like a, let's dive into that a little bit. Because parenting is a lifelong job, guys. And if it is your number one source of energy drain, it says to me that either you don't have a process or a system in place that's helping to support you in that effort, or it says to me that maybe you as an individual are depleted and you don't have what you need in order to show up for them. But there are a whole lot of parents out there in the world who are like, I'll just push through. I'll just get through Friday. I'll just get to summer. I'll just get to back to school. You keep pushing instead of slowing down long enough to figure out what's really going on. Like, what's the root cause of this feeling? Not just the symptom. What's the root cause? And I'll tell you right now that the root cause is often a lot more work than just numbing yourself out and getting to the next hurdle. It's easier and faster to just get to the next thing, to ignore what's going on and get to and frankly, there are seasons in my life as a parent where I'm like, I'm sorry, I cannot dive. I literally do not have the capacity. If I stop, treading water right now, we're all going to sink. I get that. And we have seasons where that is the reality. But assuming that you're not in one of those seasons, I know how much effort it takes to try and figure out how to make those chunks of your life feel better. But the result on the other side of it is so worth it. Now, I'm going to give you an example that's for parenting, but I think this is true even if you don't have kids. This is true for any area of your life, that if you will take the time to solve what's at the root of the problem, not just the symptom, your life will be made exponentially better. Ever wondered what's really in your cleaning products? Many contain hidden chemicals tied to hormone issues, skin irritation, and breathing problems. Switching to safer options is easier than you think. Branch Basics is more than just cleaning. It's about transforming your home into a safer, healthier space. Made from plant and mineral-based ingredients, Branch Basics is human-safe and biodegradable, making it perfect for families, especially those with babies, kids, or pets. I have been using Branch Basics Oxygen Boost for honestly as long as I've known my husband. He can't handle bleach. He has allergic reactions to it, and the Oxygen Boost makes our whites super white without us having to use a harsh chemical. Human-safe cleaning isn't a luxury. It's now more accessible than ever. Shop Branch Basic products today, available on Amazon and branchbasics.com. And for a limited time, use code HOLLIS at branchbasics.com for 15% off your next order. Make the swap that truly matters. Clean your home without compromising your health with Branch Basics. Step into the freedom of summer with jewelry that reflects who you are and where you're going. From sunrise to sunset, Pandora Jewelry transports you to paradise. No passport required. From ocean charms to colorful tennis bracelets, shop new arrivals to add to your summer staples. Be unmissable this summer with vacation-ready designs. Everyone loves adding a little something fun to their wardrobe during the summer, and accessories are the easy go-to staple that will jazz up any outfit. Feel it, live it, embrace it. Be love. Shop in-store or online at pandora.net to discover new styles. I've told y'all that this year, and I've had real success with this. I'll speak to it more in a minute, but this year, for the first time in my life, I did not set an annual goal, which is pretty crazy for me. I've done that consistently for over a decade, but for the first time ever, I felt really called to set quarterly goals that were definitely a challenge to me, but weren't as big and over the top as my annual goal tended to be. And I thought, if I set these quarterly goals and I really made them stretch goals, I think that it would change how much I am accomplishing and in how many areas at one time. So I started January of 2025, and my biggest goal for that season was about our family. I made the goal and set the intention that I was going to really dive in deep to helping my daughter to thrive at school. I've told y'all this story. She has really struggled in school her whole life. She's awesome. She's like best. We love her so much, but she's a little bit of a wild child, and she exhibited behavior. She's 8. And she was still exhibiting behaviors that you kind of expect in a much younger child. You know, had a hard time keeping her hands to herself, couldn't sit still, way too much energy in class, would talk back to teachers, just like you name it, this little girl has gone through it. And let's see, this was January of this year. Things really came to a head at the end of 2024, like November, December of 2024, she was really struggling. And we've tried everything. We had tried everything. But I was like, I am legitimately going to buckle down and figure this out. I swear on my life, like I'm going to figure this out. I legitimately removed her from school for the month of December, maybe even part of November. So for part of November, the month of December, and into January, I homeschooled her. And in case you're wondering if that is something I'm great at, the answer is no. And that should probably give you an indication of how bad I felt like it had gotten, that I was like, I would rather her be home with me even though I suck at being a stay-at-home teacher while working full-time, I would rather her be at home than go to school, because I really just started to get this feeling in my spirit, like really started to stress me out, that it was going to damage her self-esteem to continue to get in trouble every day. And I mean every day. Every single day she's getting in trouble with a teacher or speaking back, and I could see as her mama, like they were always showing up in the same scenarios, right? It was always in PE, it was always at reassess, it was always any time where there wasn't structure and lots of kids were playing and the energy would get really high. And then she'd come back into like a classroom environment where you're supposed to be calm, and she could not self-regulate. I could see it, but I get it. If you're a teacher, you're just like, you have to behave in class. So all of that to say, we went into the end of last year. I felt so discouraged, so freaking discouraged. And like, I don't know how to help my kid. And I had consulted a child psychologist like a year before, because I'm not an idiot. Like, I could research symptoms. I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's got ADHD. But people are so quick to like say that a kid has that. And I don't want them to have labels that they sort of live into, all that stuff we worry about as parents. So I had consulted a child psychologist like a year before, and he was so lovely and he gave me the best advice. And he said, if it ever gets to a place where she is unable to thrive at school, that's when you need to call me, and that's when we need to like really figure this out. But let's, try these things, try these different stuff to help her. And at that point, it was like breathing exercises and like trying to limit the amount of gluten because inflammation in the body. It was like a whole thing. I was trying all sorts of stuff. All of this to say, we go into the end of the year and I'm so discouraged, and I'm just like, I don't know how to help my kid. And am I going to have to be like a part-time teacher for the rest of my life? Because I do not want this little girl to think that there's something wrong with her. And the amount of time she's getting in trouble, that we're going to create a complex. All of that to say, start the new year, and I am about to lay out my goals for the quarter. And I was like, what would be the most life-changing change? Like what thing would fundamentally change our lives in the best possible way? And in the past, when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, if I could make $10 million this year, if I could do this, if I could do, these obnoxious goals that we have. And I looked at everything that my heart was dreaming of. And then I looked at, like I always tell y'all, look at the areas of tension. What are the hardest parts of your life? And I'm like, there is nothing harder, literally nothing harder than this. Is painful for me and Kez as her parents who like want her to thrive but don't know how to help her. It is painful for her brothers who like are having to deal with her outbursts, or they're having to deal with the stress that we feel when we get a call from the school again. Like it really affects your whole family when one of your kids is struggling. I have all these hopes and dreams for 2025, but there's not one thing that's more important than helping this little girl thrive. So my goal for quarter one of 2025, we could figure out what was going on with her. And we did. We did freaking you know me, you guys, I did. I mean, we did brain scans, blood work, nutritional, like we did everything. And that's not easy with an 8-year-old. And parts of that were scary. Like no little girl wants to have her blood taken. Like it was a whole thing. We had her assessed. We had all of this stuff looked at. And I am thinking, I did get a lot of requests in the hotline to talk about this in more detail. I'm going to see if I can't get her psychologist to come on, because he is a freaking dream. We love him. Got her assessed. I have told y'all this before. She was diagnosed with ADHD, which we knew. Like that was so unsurprising to us, but diagnosed it through brain scans. Like not like, here's our opinion, but no, here's actually what her brain looks like. And that was so helpful, because when you look at, here is like what the blood flow or the stress level should look like in the average, 8-year-old child, and here's what it looks like in your child, the compassion that like immediately Like I just understood her in a completely different way. Because I'll tell you what, if you don't understand what's going on with your kid and they have a behavioral challenge, it's very easy to be like, they're not being good today, or they're challenging me, or they're disrespectful, or they're whatever. And then you're like, oh my, look at what your brain looks like. And the way they do these tests is they're like, here's what their brain looks like at rest, meaning like, nothing's going on. And then here's what their brain looks like under stress. And the stress in that instance is they give them a test, like a play this video game kind of thing, and see how does their brain respond to when it's asked to work. And it just gave me such a different opinion. I'm going so deep. I apologize that I'm taking this very hard right turn. I went way too in depth about this. But my point is, we got this diagnosis, we got a plan of action for her, and we found supplements and ways to support her brain so that it can function better. She's not on medicine, like from a pharmacy. She's not on stuff like that, though I would do it if she needed it. But we started with these supplements, and I cannot possibly express to you how much it has changed our life. I can't, I just don't even have words. It was so much. This is what I want to stress to y'all. In the process, it took months of tests and meeting with the doctor, and it was so frustrating, not to her, but like internally, of just how much time and effort went into this thing. And when we figured out what was going on, I know I went on about that way too long, but what I hope you have heard in just like the tone of my voice is when you get the answers you need, when you get the resources you need, when you get the steps that you need, it is like exponential results. That's what you gotta aim at. You gotta aim at, if I'm willing to dive in and I'm willing to figure out what's really going on, and I'm willing to solve whatever needs to be solved so that I can thrive as a parent, or my children can thrive in their environment, or maybe you're listening to this and like, you need to take the steps to help you thrive as a human so that you can go through senior year of college and write your thesis well. Like, don't treat the symptom. Let's look at the root cause. Yes, I just went way too deep. Sorry. Welcome to the podcast. Okay, I have a couple more journal prompts for you, and then we're going to lay out a plan. When you're looking back on the last 6 months, I love asking, what is the limiting belief that's been running the show so far this year? A limiting belief is anything that you tell yourself that is not helping you to accomplish your goals. And maybe you're like, oh, no, but the thing I'm telling myself, it's true. No, it's not true. It's a thought. And you don't have to believe every stupid thought that you think. Just because you're thinking it doesn't make it true. If you have a limiting belief right now, like there's a goal that you want, something you hope to become, and your brain's like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not whatever you're telling yourself, that is not the truth. That is an idea. You made it a belief by thinking it over and over and over to the point that it became your narrative, and it's just not true. And if you can identify the limiting belief, then you can begin to squash it. Okay, so we talked about what's draining you, what is a limiting belief that you have. My next prompt for you is, when you look at the last 6 months, be honest. What didn't you do that you had committed to doing? And if you actually had just followed the plan, you would have gotten where you wanted to go. I have an upcoming pep talk on Sunday. Literally, you're listening to this on Friday. On Sunday, you got to come back and listen to Sunday's pep talk. It's called Feelings Aren't Facts. And I recorded this whole thing because I wanted to remind you guys that you're going to make a plan, and then at some point along the journey, you're not going to want to do the plan anymore. You're not going to feel like it. And the feeling isn't the fact. You need to follow the plan. And one way that you can encourage yourself to follow the plan is to ask this question: what plan did I make at any point in the last 6 months that, if I am being honest with myself, and if I actually had just stuck with the plan that I made, I would be so much further along? That's the whole trick. You don't need a bunch of new ideas. You don't need a trend. You don't need an app. You don't need a book. You don't need any other products. You don't need a trainer. You don't need it. You just need to stick with the plan that you made. I'm not saying that's the plan forever. Once you get further along the road, once you know more, the plan will evolve. But for right now, can you just stick with the plan that you actually have? Last segment, we're going to land this plane by creating your game plan, the second half of the year game plan. We're going to do this by creating something that is actionable, powerful, and purposeful. And what I want you to remember is you don't need 25 new goals. You need a direction. And it's okay if the direction that you're going to take for the next 6 months is the direction you meant to take in the last 6 months. So we're going to start with this: a core feeling. A core feeling. What is one feeling that you want to embody in the next 6 months? This is the beauty of being in a community like this. The feeling is going to be different for everybody. Maybe someone's like, I want to wake up every day and feel peace. Someone else is like, I want to wake up and feel confident. I want to feel confident in what I'm doing. Maybe what you want to feel is momentum. The core feeling that I'm after is this feeling of intention. As I look into the next 6 months, I want to be very intentional in what I'm focused on and where I'm spending my time and where I'm going. Intention. I want to feel that in all the decisions that I'm making. So my first question for you is, what is the core feeling that you are chasing in the next 6 months? The next question I want to ask is, what is one goal for this quarter? Just this quarter. What is one thing, like my aiming at helping my daughter to thrive in school, which I didn't even finish the story, but she really is thriving in school. Tomorrow will be her last day of second grade. I didn't know she could be in this place. She's just doing so great, you guys. Thank you for your prayers, because I know a bunch of you have been praying for us in this. But what is one goal that you could create for the next quarter, next 3 months, that if you achieve it, it's got to be a bit of a stretch, but it's got to be something that is possible. Don't say like, I want to make $1 billion in the next 3 months if you made, 15 grand in in the last 3 months. Like, let's have a stretch, but let's have it be something that is totally achievable through practice and focus. To me, this is a goal that is 100% possible. It's not pie in the sky. It's not, wouldn't it be nice if? It's 100% possible if you do the work. It's that kind of goal. It's, if I show up every single day and I eat in this certain way and I move my body in this certain way, 3 months from now, I'm going to feel way better in my skin. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to feel confident, blah, 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 blah. What is one goal for the next 3 months? Okay. And then I want you to take that quarterly goal that you just set, and I want you to break that quarterly goal down into mile markers. Y'all might remember this from Girl Stop Apologizing. The idea is that we start with the finish line. Where is it that we want to go? And then we break that big goal down into 3 mile markers. What's the first thing that I need to get to? What's the second? What's the third? That's beautiful too, because every step along that way, you can celebrate those wins when you accomplish this piece that you're aiming at. But what are mile markers? How can we break this goal down into bite-sized pieces so you have a direction to head? And this could be as simple as like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week for the next 3 months. So I'm going to get in, I'm making this up because I don't know how many weeks we've got, but let's say I'm going to get in, 60 days of working out in the next 3 months. Fantastic. Okay, that's great, because that's a really easy mile marker for you. The first mile marker would be getting past 20 workouts, right? The next mile marker would be getting past 40 workouts. The next mile marker would be getting past 60 workouts. So you see how you can break that down into pieces? So we're going to have that core feeling, that one big quarterly goal. We're going to break it down into mile markers. The next thing I want you to ask yourself is, what is the support system you need to keep this in place? Who or what can help you to stay aligned, to stay on your path? And if you don't have anybody in your life that can help you stay on your path, let's really be mindful of the media that you consume that can help you stay focused, right? So let's say that your goal is, I want to run a half marathon in the next quarter. Fantastic. Be really curating about the media that you consume. Be really focused on what that media is. So, for instance, I love going on YouTube and watching videos about gardening or baking or remodeling a house, like kind of anything that's like home stuff I love. And I could lose whole days. I'm such a geek. That being said, YouTube is real sneaky. All of those algorithms are, where I'll start off watching a video about a gardener, and here's another gardener, and here's another gardener, and here's a puppy video. And I didn't want to watch a puppy video, but it's so cute. Like, I love that. I love the puppy video because I like dogs. And then, oh, here's this, and it all of a sudden, I'm like watching happens when an intruder is like on someone's front doorstep on their Ring camera. And and then I'm like, oh my God, how did I fall down this rabbit hole? I was watching a video about canning. Like, how did I get here? We have got to control what we consume, or the machine will control us. That sounds like so over the top. But if you want to stay focused on a goal and you don't have anybody in your environment, like you don't have a mentor or a coach or a bestie who's in it with you, then you are going to have to be really strict with the information that you will take on board. You only have so much space in your brain, and you want to make sure you're filling it with the right stuff. So make sure you've got that support system in place. Also, this show's always going to be here. Me and producer Jack and editor Andrew, we are over here working on this show for y'all 4 days a week. We've got the newsletter on Sundays. There is content there. Like, you know that we will always show up for you guys. You can get your Sunday pep talk. You can come in on Friday and hear an episode like this. Like, be intentional, even if it's not our show, but finding people who can support you in the journey. The last thing I'm going to challenge you to find is one daily habit that reminds you that you're doing this thing. My second quarterly goal was getting in the best shape of my life. And guess what? I'm freaking there. I'm like so pumped about what is happening with my body right now. I'm going to, take a bathing suit picture or something to show you guys, probably in the newsletter, maybe not on social. But anyway, that was my goal, was that I'm going to be in the best shape of my life. And one daily habit that reinforces that, I do it every morning, and I literally hate it, but I also love it because it reminds me what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And that is the nutritional plan I'm on. You have to eat protein within 30 minutes of waking up. And eating within 30 minutes of waking up, especially if you get up as early as I do, barf, like so gross. So I just put a scoop of protein powder, a couple scoops of protein powder in a shaker with some water and some ice, and I shake it up and I pound it. And I hate it. I literally hate it. But I don't know if it's that or if it's just the overall nutrition plan that I'm on, but my body is changing in a way I didn't even know was possible. But every single morning when I go shake that bottle, it's 5 a.m. yesterday, there I am standing in the kitchen shaking my bottle. And every single time I'm drinking it, I'm like, vomit. Like, I do not want this thing. But then I'm done literally 30 seconds later, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm doing this thing. So what is one habit? Drinking water, going on a walk, gratitude practice, meditating every day. What is one habit that you could add to your life that reinforces what you're going to do this quarter? I hope I've given you some ideas that help you to build out a game plan for the second half. I know I just talked about what you're going to do in the next quarter, but obviously we're going to do another episode for the last 90 days. if you know, you know, about the last quarter of the year. So if you stick in this with me, you got to focus on the next quarter, and then we'll come back again. We'll have a reset for the last quarter of the year. We'll finish really strong. But take the time to get into that journal, answer some of those questions, and figure out where you want to go from here. I want this summer to be all the things that we would love, right? I want it to not just be about productivity, but also be about joy. I want us to have fun. I want us to grill. I want us to listen to Bob Marley and have Topo Chicos and like get a beautiful suntan and live our best lives. But I also know that in this community, we have hopes and dreams. We're working on ourselves. We're trying to become something new and better. And in order to do that, we can't lose time. We can't lose time. Enjoy the summer, lean all the way in, but also stay mindful of where it is that you want to go. So maybe it starts by asking yourself, how can you continue to become the person of your dreams while also enjoying the summertime? We will be back soon with more conversation. In fact, we'll be back Sunday with that pep talk. I hope you guys will listen to it. Until then, as always, I love you so much. I'm rooting for you big time, and I'll talk to you soon. The Rachel Hollis podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble. Have you ever noticed how celebrities have brighter, whiter looking eyes? Their makeup artists have a little secret in their kit: Lumify Redness Reliever Eye Drops. Lumify dramatically reduces redness in just 1 minute. It literally happens right before your eyes. It helps your eyes look brighter, whiter, and more awake for up to 8 hours. No wonder Lumify is so loved by influencers, celebrities, and makeup artists, and has over 6,000 five-star reviews on Amazon. Lumify is also the #1 eye doctor recommended redness reliever eye drop, and it's FDA approved. No bleach, no dyes, just incredible results. Plus, it's made by the eye care experts at Bausch & Lomb. So whether you're on set, on a date, or running on just a few hours of sleep, Lumify can help your eyes look brighter and whiter. When you try it, you'll see that it's what your eyes have been looking for. Check out LumifyEyes.com to learn more. I'm a sneaker kind of girl. I love comfortable shoes, but I also want them to look cute. The New Balance 1080 is that versatile go-to sneaker that's ready for anything. I wear them to the gym, I wear them out on jogs, I wear them around the town to go get groceries. I do it all. You get the perfect mix of comfort and performance, so you're covered from coffee runs to race day. Runners love that cushioned midsole because it's got their back, or, well, actually their feet. But basically, it's this giant, cushiony, beautiful marshmallow shoe. Doesn't make sense until you put it on your feet, and then you're like, oh, yeah, Rach, this is just like walking in a marshmallow. Ready to upgrade your kicks? Shop the 1080 now at newbalance.com.